So much for that. But at least remember to like, oh yeah, everything only does the one track. Yeah,
They have built that, it's all feasible.
they never I believe it.
That vehicles, cars don't turn. There are bikes out there, it's safe, it costs a couple of dollars to go around, but a lot of people. I know, right? Yes.
Yeah, White City is taking that as somebody's taking a shot across the valley to trying to eliminate townships in general, because they want Sandy City to basically connect the city and the region. No longer be they meeting instigating a lot of this. There's a couple of good-looking group like individuals.
Oh, well, it is now that you're here.
Like the one that works, and a bunch of other things that have happened, it seems like they're always talking about the same. I don't remember. I haven't lived in White City. So, I know that they've mentioned things here and there, but,
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's the one.
do it.
I was wondering, depending on it.
It's not as, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of people that think that it's stable, and we have to kind
So Renee, are we ready to start? Are we online already?
We are.
Why don't we go ahead and get started? I'd like to welcome everybody to the Board of Trustees meeting for Los Angeles Waste and Recycling. It's May 22nd. We have a nice in-person group here at our headquarters, and it looks like we have some participants joining online. We got Patrick Schaefer and Eric Barney online, and Katerina, why don't you call the roll, see who's here.
Chair Daniel Gibbons.
Here.
Vice Chair Anna Barbieri.
Yes.
Cindy Sharkey. Here. Eric Barney. Greg Shelton.
Present.
Keith Dustin.
Here.
Lori Stringham. Patrick Schaefer.
Here.
Bill Markham, excused. Robert Pignon.
Here.
Scott Bracken. Sherry Orange, excused. Tessa Spitzer. Tom DeCider.
Here.
So, help me do the math, Pam. We have a quorum.
That 9 are required, or excuse me, 8, sorry.
8. So we've got, so how many is that, Katerina? We got 8?
8, 9, 10, yeah.
We're good. All right. Okay, we'll first item number 1 on the agenda, consent items. Approval requested. These are the April 24th, 2023 board meeting minutes, pages 2 through 30 in our packets. Any corrections, comments, or issues with the minutes? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Anna with Taylor's bill.
We have a second?
Second. Archie from Sandy.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Item number 2, meeting open for public comments. Are there any members of the public here present in our anchor location? Doesn't appear so. Anyone online, or did we receive any other comments?
Mr. Chair, no public comment.
All right, appears there's no public comments. There being none, we'll close the public comment section. Item 3, business items. 3.1 is 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report and the Independent Financial Audit of Kyle Green, Esquire and Company, and Paul Court, our Finance Director. Paul, why don't we have Kyle here, correct?
Yes.
Kyle, thank you so much for being here. Paul, we'll just kick that over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's time for our annual review and report from the auditor. Kyle Green and his team at Squire's been working with us. We appreciate working with them, and they made an effort to get this done so we could have this reported for May. So what I'm going to do is turn the time over to Kyle. He's the partner on the audit, so he signs off and reviews it and really gets involved with what's going on here at the district as far as from an accounting and a review and a control standpoint. So I'll turn the time over to him at first, and then there's a few items I'd like to cover too. So,
Okay, thank you. So, I think you all have it, and it looks like it's present on the screen for those that are online. Just have this little one-page executive summary. So we'll just kind of go over this, but feel free to ask questions, and then, like Paul said, I know he's got a couple of items too to dive a little bit deeper, I think, into some of the financials. But so for December 31, 2022, we are going to be issuing an unmodified opinion. That's our first bullet point there, on the audit. So these financial statements, we're giving them the kind of the highest grade we can give. These are clean books. And credit to Paul and his team, we came in and the books were ready. And so they were clean. There were very little adjustments that needed to be proposed. What we tested was supported. They had their invoices, again, support ready for us. We saw the things that we needed to, the proper controls and reviews happening, and so able to report there that we're giving an unmodified opinion, or you can also refer to that as a clean opinion on the financial statements. Second point there, the other audit that we have to perform is the state compliance audit. That's an annual requirement where the state auditor compiles an audit guide that we're required to go out and then test. So there are certain steps that he and his staff tell us that we kind of have to do. Right there in the middle of that second, the areas tested include it talks about budgetary compliance, fund balance, your progress assessment, cash management, and Utah retirement system. So we tested those items this year. Overall, we are giving an unmodified opinion, but do want to just note in that third sentence there in that bullet that leave of absences, as employees take leave of absences, you're required to notify URS of when that leave starts and when that leave ends. And we noted during our testing that that was just not done as timely as needed in 2022. Those submissions have been made now, but just they weren't done as timely. So we've just recommended and work with Paul and Pam here and their staff to just get those done a little bit sooner. I think already processes have been implemented to make sure that that happens. But just as a board here, as you know, we testing new tire retirement systems. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. So just this next little section, again, we just, various samples that we looked at, cash disbursements, cash receipts, payrolls, and capital assets. I just wanted to highlight some of those. We picked our samples, reviewed for coding and support and approvals. Again, we saw everything that we were wanting to and expecting from your controls and policies. So there's no reportable matters to note in any of those. So again, it was Paul and the staff had it ready to go there. Other matter, and I think Paul's going to touch on this a little bit here, but in the financials you have, because you participate in new tire retirement systems, you're required to pick up a proportionate share of either their liability or their asset. At the end of December 31st, 2022, there's about a $1.9 million net pension asset on your books, which was quite a swing from 2021. I think you're in about a $200,000 liability, remember that right? So I mean, it's almost a $2 million swing that happened. And the way that it works is we have to use the actuary study from 2021 for your December year ends. And so it's that net pension assets reflected of 2021 when the market was good. We'd anticipate, we don't know where it'll land yet, but we would anticipate due to 2022 and some of the market changes that we're going to have a big swing back the other way. And so this asset will only be on your books for 1 year and then kind of swing back. But do recognize that was kind of a big change or a big item for the financials this year. And I just wanted to note, the district, your unrestricted net position at the end of the year is $12.3 million. I probably should have put on there for reference to remind to where you were last year, but I think that's very similar to last year. So that didn't change a whole lot. So that unrestricted is dollars that you can use to continue to operate the district with no restriction there. Okay. Those are our reports and what we have for you as the board. If there's any particular questions on the audit procedures that we perform, happy to address those. If not, Paul, I'll let you highlight a few areas you want to discuss.
Yeah, I just wanted to go
Hang
through.
on 1 second, we have 2 documents in our packet, board members. We have your letter of May 17th, and then we actually have a multi-page. We have the actual audit itself, so I just for board members to clarify. I also just wanted to note that board member Stringham got here just a moment after the top of the hour and missed the very first part of the financial discussion, but nice to see you, Laurie. So anyway, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I just want to go through a few things in our annual comprehensive financial report, so if we can go there, please. And just, when we get there, if we can just go to page 3, just a few sections here. So this is about 85 pages. Some of it I think is really useful and interesting. Other of it, some of the pension disclosures, a bit challenging, you know, for some of us, and I'm a person who spends my life in numbers. So there on page 3, what we have is a letter to the board that's reviewed and updated every year, and Pam is deeply involved with this and writes it. And so it's just a good summary and a good review of kind of what's going on with the district during the past year. And one of the main items we all know is when the district was reorganized from a special service district to a local district, and it talks about that and gives some background. It also talks about factors affecting financial condition, whether that's economy, labor force, risk management, those types of things. So this is a good summary kind of the district and what went on the past year, some of the things that we as management feel are important to review and know about. So that's one area. It's I think that's about 4 pages. In my mind, that's interesting and valuable to read, I think, for anyone who's interested in the district. If we could go, Lisa, to the next area, page 23. And I just wanted to go over the basic financial statements here just a minute and then talk again on something that we did. Yeah,
Page 22. If you look at these numbers,
yeah, I'm looking at the page number, I'm not quite sure. It did not have a page number.
It's right after basic financial statement.
Yeah.
Right,
Down just a
25
few
in the
more.
PDF.
Yeah. Says basic financial, there we go.
There.
Thanks, Renee. So this is a statement of net position, it's similar to a balance sheet. And so I think this is always good to look at and see kind of where we're at. This lists our assets. And we can see there, the first three are really cash checking, cash that we have at the state treasurer's pool, and then investments that we have with Zions, investments. And then we see accounts receivable, and we can go down through there, we see the non-current assets and the capital assets. So one thing to me that's interesting with our financial statements or even outside with businesses, one thing you always look at is current assets versus current liabilities. And that's always nice for me to look at here because we're showing 16.2 million as current assets, and we have 1.6 million in current liabilities. So that means we have some flexibility there, and also we're not super tight. If that's a 1-to-1 ratio, that gets really tight. That means you don't have much cash and bills come in and you have to pay them, or you're delaying the payment of bills and invoices. And so I always like it, that ratio, and I think it still holds up here. Look at current assets versus current liabilities. And so those are our assets on that page. If we could just go to the next page, please, Renee. These are our liabilities, and then it also talks about the net position down at the bottom here. But just goes through our current liabilities, our accounts payable, salaries and benefits payable, compensated absences, those type of things, leases payable current. So talks about the different categories and shows the liabilities that we owe to other entities. And then down to the bottom, as Kyle mentioned this, our net position for the year, the unrestricted net position was 12.3 million. And then we had the restricted net position, which was that asset. So any questions on this, the statement of net position, before we move on to the next one as far as assets, liabilities, those types of things? So, okay. The next one, I want to spend a little more time on this. This is the statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. And this is really, it's similar to an income statement, but it shows our revenues, our operating expenses, non-operating income, our income or loss, and then change in net position. And we reported this very similar information at our January board meeting, but I just wanted to, there was a significant, what I would call a significant change in my opinion. At our January board meeting, we reported approximately $1.6 million loss. Here we end up with $157,000 loss. And I just wanted to go over that because it ties into what Kyle said. We had adjustments, and I mentioned this in January, but we had not booked adjustments from OPEB, that liability, or from the state pension. And so, from the pension with URS. And so when we booked those adjustments, we almost had $1 million benefit to this statement from URS from that pension adjustment. And that's a pretty significant adjustment. It's not something we knew about before, and that comes from what the actuaries do at the state level. So URS sends us out the numbers, they send us the disclosures. But it was not what I expected. I followed the stock market, and 2022 was not a good year. 21 was good, 22 wasn't. So I ended up, I called URS, because I'm like, this doesn't meet my expectations. Plus, we report 1.6 million loss, and then we come in at 157,000. And with the actuaries, they look at historical information, so they hadn't even picked up 22 in their numbers and in their work that they did. And so we had an adjustment from URS, it was almost $1 million, and then we also had an adjustment with OPEB that was $430,000 approximately. And so really, those were the two big adjustments that took us from that. There were some other ones too that were smaller and a few things there, but those two adjustments really took us from that $1.7 million loss to $157,000. The reason I bring it up and I want to spend time on it is I think significant for this year to understand that. But then my concern is the future, because this year it benefited us, it decreased our loss. In the future, I think that's going to swing the other way, and from what Kyle and I talked about, I think he kind of feels that way too. And so I just wanna make sure the board's prepared. We could go the other way in the next year or two when they start picking up the low returns, or actually negative returns, on the assets. And so we'll see what happens there, but a lot of the operational numbers didn't change at all from what we reported in January. A few of them did. We had a couple invoices come in, but we were pretty close in January, other than these two big adjustments. And so I just wanted to bring that up and make sure the board understands it, because I think it's gonna come into play in the future too. Plus, it makes us look significantly better than I had been saying in the past. But I went back and looked, and we've never had, at least in the last 5 years, we have not had that kind of adjustment from URS. That was what I would call a significant adjustment from URS. Like, when I got it, I was like, man, is this incorrect, or what are they doing here? But, I called and talked with them, and that's kind of the situation. So, I don't know, do we have any questions on this, as far as any other categories or in regards to that issue?
Oh, just for clarification, that's a book,
Yes.
correct? It's not cash.
It's an accounting entry, and so there's not, when we say $1 million adjustment, we did not get $1 million in. It's accounting entries, and that's a good clarification, Pam, I usually bring that up, but that's a really good clarification. We are not getting $1 million cash in. And when it flips the other way, I don't think we're gonna have to pay out whatever that number is. We do pay URS cash, but we do it every payroll. We remit a percentage of the number of employees in tier 1 and tier 2. So that was an accounting entry. There was no cash associated with that. And same with the OPEB adjustment.
Any questions at this point? Yeah.
Does that mean we'll see like a reverse of that next year, to take 23 and 22 and 23 into consideration?
I will see some of it, yes. I don't know how much, but I think, yes, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not quite sure actuaries, when they do things, I'm not sure if they look at multiple years or they give more weight to the most recent year either. But I call them asking, they hadn't even taken 22 returns into their calculation for this. In 22, the market, at least the S&P 500, was down, I think, around the mid-20s. I mean, it was like down 20, 25%. It was pretty significant. So we do expect that to change in the future.
Just a note, we have experienced this before, but it was years ago. It was, I think in 08, test my memory, 09, there was an adjustment on the books, and then it did come back, and we didn't have to set aside $500,000, but it was over 2 years period. So, yeah, I think it will probably do that again. So thank you very much for bringing that up, being on top of that.
So, because I like to follow the returns, but the S&P 500, that's the index of stocks. It's not perfect, but it had a 27% return in 21, and it was down 20% in 22. And so they're going off of 21, and so they haven't taken that down year into consideration in their calculation. So, any other questions on our income or revenue, other areas? Like I said, a lot of these, we talked about maintenance and fuel, we talked about salaries and wages, and recycling fees. We kind of went into that in pretty good detail at the January board meeting, but if there's additional questions, we're happy to.
Chair, I have one more. Do we have a copy of the fraud survey and what we got out of it as far as
The fraud risk assessment, we had that for last year, and we haven't done it this year. We'll do it in the next month or two. We have it for last year, yeah.
I figured we did. Okay.
We did that, actually, we talked about presenting it here, and doing it and have it ready for June. It's due once a year, but
Yeah.
we can do that and have it the next meeting. If you want to see the historical one, that's fine.
I'd like to compare.
Okay, yeah.
Good suggestion.
Okay. And then the rest, there's a cash flow statement that's next, and then also, I didn't show it here, but the audit opinions at the first of this report, and then also there's, some reports on internal controls and state compliance and those type of things at the end of the report. But I don't want to spend a lot of detail, go through each page of this. If there's any questions or additional information that people would like to see the progress assessment, we can definitely provide that and plan on doing that in the near future.
We do have it on for the June, agenda.
Perfectly fine.
For this year, but if, just to make sure I'm clear, would you all like me to send you out last year's? Because many of you are new to the board, so.
I think that would be a great idea in connection with our June agenda. We can see last year's and then we can compare it.
Got it, okay. Got it.
All right, anything else, Paul? Thank you so much, and Kyle, thank you, appreciate Squire and Company as always, the good work you do. All right, 3.2, policy amendments related to Family and Medical Leave Act, presentation from Pam and from legal counsel Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as you recall, last month we brought this before you, and then there were some requests to add a little more information in here. One of it, thank you, Kyle, very much, good to see you again, was to have a statement about making sure that we understand that federal law would trump any policy, if there was a conflict in the community of law can change. And then the other piece was to define key employee. I took a stab at it last meeting, but did some of it justice, but not really. But actually, just go back up to page 33. Yeah, and can you make that over? There we go. Rachel, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah, these are pretty minor changes, they were just in response to the comments that my parents had from last month, so. First one, we just inserted in a general policy that will comply with federal law to the extent there is any conflict, of course. And then on the next page, we added the definition of key employee, which is salary, among the eligible employees whose salary is among the top 10% of all the employees employed by the district. Any questions?
Any questions, board members? All right, so, it's, adoption of this is requested. If there's no questions, yes,
Actually, I do, I know we had a discussion with key employees before. Does that cover most of our, general managers and everybody like that, in key areas? Is there anybody that you would consider key if you lost the majorly a problem that isn't covered under that particular rule right now?
You know, Rachel and I talked about this, and I don't think so. I think we're good with the way this is written and how the law says. I think we would be okay. Do you want to?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the way that key employee exemption works anyway under federal law, it's gonna be very fact specific, case by case anyway. Even if someone qualifies under the salary requirement, they still may not qualify for that key employee exemption because it's pretty onerous burden to prove that like you're going to be, that the organization will be, I can't remember this, grievously harmed, I can't remember how they worded it,
Yeah.
by that person leaving and not coming back or coming back or whatever, so. I think it's unlikely it'll really be triggered anyway, but yeah, all the people that, to answer your question, that we think should be in that category are, there's no one that's not covered by it, that we feel like, oh no, that person should be a key employee, but they're not, in the definition. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, any other questions or comments? All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
Move approval.
We have a motion, second.
Second, Robert, from the immigration team.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adoption, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that change is adopted. Pam Roberts, our general manager, report. Pam, will let's take it away.
Thank you. So I appreciate you adopting that, policy, and I'll work with Rachel to get our SOPs in line in more detail so employees understand how this works. For my report this month, I chose a couple of recent photos that a few of us on the team went to the SWANA luncheon, and for anyone who doesn't know what the acronym is, the Solid Waste Association of North America, and they, the Beehive chapter here in Utah has luncheons, out once a month, once a quarter, whenever they can get together. And most of the attendees are landfill, and districts or government-run organizations, and then, it's really encouraged for private sector to come as well. A lot of times when we go, we're the only hauling organization, which, yeah, which is good and bad at the same time, but I think it's important that haulers are represented on this particular, forum and for these, organizations, so they understand the other side of the business, and we understand their side of the business, so it's a collaborative effort to make sure we're meeting the needs. This month, it was held at the Wasatch Integrated MRF, which is a materials recovery facility. And if you look up to the picture at the right, that gentleman there is sorting through recycling. So a MRF is basically taking recycling that's collected and they're sorting it. So you can see right there, that particular line that gentleman is picking, they call it picking, is paper. So anything that's not that commodity or might be a contaminant garbage, they pick it off and throw it away. So anyway, just wanted to show you some pictures. It was a really good event, and it was really nice to see this MRF. It is in Layton. They just opened 3 years ago. It's a district, so it's government run, and it was good to hear some pros and cons about it, but it was also reassuring to hear that what we're being charged for the base fee from the private hauler or private processors is in line with, you know, what's actually happening on the other side of the business.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it is pretty exciting to go and see new things. So anyway, the next page, I'm gonna go through our performance measures and their customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, and financial stewardship and environmental and risk management. So I'm just gonna, go through a couple of items here, and then as I go, if you have questions, please let me know. But these first two are follow-up items that, were requested from the board to see if we could make these happen and fight all these. We did, and I don't know, if Renee, if you're able to pull up the chat box and go ahead and cover these next two items.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
So shout out to, Board Chair Dan last month for recommending that we incorporate some sort of AI, in our chat box, and we're able to do it. And initially, he had mentioned having it available after hours so that customers can be more directed on our website to questions and getting their answers quickly. We decided, we're in a testing phase right now, we said, let's try it all day to see over the next 30 days, you know, if it's going to help possibly eliminate, you know, initial chats that are coming into our live agents, and it has already. So here's how it happens. When you go onto the website, you just click here, and what we did is we incorporated some of the top questions that come up. You know, do we service them, frequently asked questions? In live agent, we still wanted it to be present and there, so that, you know, if the customer's like, hey, I just want to talk to a live agent, it's readily available. So when a customer clicks on this, then it'll take them essentially to that page, or give them a link right there, and then they can just click on that, and it takes them right to it. So there you go. So they type in their address. The second one we did was the FAQ, because that answers a lot of our customers' questions right there. So when you click on that, then it just comes right up, frequently asked questions, right there. Our recycled materials at the top tend to be like some of our most sought out items online. It says garbage bags, other, etc. So it guides them directly to the spot on our website, so they're not having to search through. So yeah.
Sorry, so you basically got a phone tree on the head menu there, but is the AI tied into the chat down at the bottom as well, or does that just go straight to the creating a message for a live agent?
Not sure.
So like at the bottom, like if you were to start a new one where you can type a message, is that built in with the AI as well? So if I asked like, when is my cleanup happening?
Yes.
That is tied into the
Yes,
AI
right.
as well? So it's still finding the keywords and, okay, cool.
So if you type in scrap, would it take you right to that? Or-
Uh-oh.
Well, sorry, I threw it a wrench, I apologize, we didn't test that one.
Leave it to the IT guy to ask.
So for Eric books, fill out our cancellation waiting
There you go.
list. Yeah,
There it is.
Going through. Scrap website, more requests. Please talk to the lead agent if you have more questions.
Sweet.
There you go, right on.
Scrap website.
So Renee, I tried it over the weekend because we got a newsletter, right? And it talked about hazardous waste. So I went to the website and couldn't find the hazardous waste page. So I typed it into the chat bot and it kept telling me it didn't know what I was talking about.
Those are keywords that we can start adding. So it's a learning machine, and so.
And AI is only as smart as you teach it.
Right, so that's, thank you for those, recommendations, so then we can add in there some keywords that it'll find and start
Do you also get a report when you have this situation right here where it's like, I don't know what you're saying? Do you get a report of those searches so that you can go back and see which ones are valid to, hey, we need to enter this, or we need to do that?
Actually, yeah, we're able to pull up reports to see every chat that's been out there, so, I know Yale's been actively working on trying to make it learn a little more, so. Great. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't complaining, I just wanted to let you know that I gave it a chance.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we're like a week into this, and so
pretty good.
it's gonna get better.
Smarter and smarter, yeah.
And more feedback, so thank you very
Absolutely,
much.
yeah.
The better.
Any additional, let me know, don't hesitate, yeah.
And it didn't come back with a Justin Bieber, answer to our question, so.
If it's gonna get smarter and smarter, can we put in our agendas in there and it'll become smarter than us? We can just rely on what it tells us.
I was gonna say, can we have it tell a joke if we don't know? That would make it more fun.
We'll just have them call Matt, who's our dad joke king, and, we got a dad joke.
Yep.
I think that's awesome, thank you.
Very good. Awesome.
That's good stuff.
I think this is really terrific, and it just saves so much money and time.
That's the whole thing, time and money, especially when it comes to our employees, right? You know, so just, you know, again, we wanna keep the live agent available.
Yep.
And, you know, even on here, it says like contact us, and it gives several options, here, I'll show that one. So, because we don't want to eliminate that in-person contact that they need, if they need the phone number to
Contact us.
So, contact us for
Live
agent,
agent.
you know.
Can I
We
trust
got
it?
live agent.
Can I trust it with a credit card?
They can email, and then you can go see our team, main menu, and then you can also, you know, call us now. Do that, come see us.
And there are people that may not want a live agent, they would rather just be able to figure it out or themselves through the website, so I think this is great.
Yeah, well done. Cool. Thanks for the suggestions, too.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then the next one, landfill voucher, do you wanna fill that one as well?
Sure, yeah, so, board member, Warren had recommended, you know, possibly going to an electronic voucher for us, and I think that was a great recommendation, and we're already working with Jill over at Transjordan and Patrick, and we're working on, right now, we have the voucher ready to go to where they can click a QR code, but we want to, refine the policing part of it, right? Because if a customer gets that electronic voucher on their screen, they go to, our fellow landfills, we don't want them to be able to use that same screen over and over, right? So we're working with them to figure out the policing on that, which may include a voucher number, and even, Jill over at Transjordan, she said that they've actually been talking about something like that, and they're working on getting a QR code reader, so we might be able to include like a specific, code with that customer. So, yeah, so we're working on that. We should have that probably ready, by end of June, I would imagine, so, coming up.
Yeah, well done, thank you very much.
No, absolutely.
Sure. And to Patrick, Craig, and then Jill Fletcher.
Mhm.
on the transfer.
Absolutely.
That's the benefit of that networking and understanding industry trends being a part of those organizations. If you wouldn't mind just jumping back to the packet. All right, and then just, speaking of technology, we're just continually looking at ways to improve productivity, and so paperless work orders, the bottom line there, as far as can repair, replacement, and helping our team to keep track of what's going on. And then I'll just scroll down to employee satisfaction, if there's no questions on the customer. So, one of the things that we've talked to you about is the driver apprentice program. And if we look down at the recruitment and retention, we'll understand again why we want to implement the driver apprentice program. We've been successful in recruiting, 9 CDL drivers full-time this year, but we've had some turnover. So, some folks left for retirement, not necessarily from the district, but they've been working in the field or other places long enough that they wanted to retire. And then other people move out of state, such as our HR manager that was gonna join us, but we're continuing on our quest for that. But at any rate, for the CDL drivers, driver apprentice program has been spearheaded by Renee Plant and Andy King, who's our asset manager. And Andy has dubbed it the Grow Your Own Driver, program, and it really is. And the theory here is just bring them on early. They might be a little younger in age or what have you, trying to figure out what they want to do with their career. And so it's going to be an intensive training program right from the get-go. This will be onboarding through Scrap is the thought here, and they may not have a CDL yet. So I've been working and talking with Melissa Cotter on a pay scale specifically for this position. So the thought is it's a progressive up to, after they're with us for a year, they move into the equipment operator position and enter into that pay range. So it's progressive as it goes. But we're not reinventing the wheel per se. There are pay structures already in place that we can just say we're going to use this bottom range here, and so forth. I know I'm not giving you any visuals, but Andy, Renee, and I met last week a couple of times just to review this. So the goal is to bring something formally back to you next month, to have you review it and hopefully sign off. Understanding, Andy and Renee and I met, when we met last week, we talked about how many allocations we want to dedicate to this. It's a lot of work, so we're thinking 2 driver allocations. They're already there, they're not new, right? We're not asking for more allocations. Right now we have about 6 vacancies. I think we might have a 7th, but at any rate, we're just going to dedicate 2 of those vacancies to this particular position, and see how we go. Because it is pretty intense. We need to have frontline, lead equipment operators, supervisors engaged with this to make sure that it's successful for these candidates coming in.
Cam, what's the minimum age of a CDL driver?
18.
So they can be 18.
Yeah.
Taylorsville High School has I just was introduced to it last week, an interesting program where they're taking their students and putting them in organizations for an hour or two so that you can teach them about the jobs that they have available, and these are the kinds of opportunities that they're looking for, so.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know that we've connected with the workforce services through the state, and they talk about school districts and getting involved with them. We were hoping that we could get some grant funding through the federal programs that they have for the workforce services here in the state. But we started looking at their criteria, and there's so many restrictions that we still want to proceed. And if we can work it out, that we can get some funding, great. But this is something that we wanted to do, and we're planning on funding anyway. And that we might save a little bit of money because we're bringing them in on a career ladder scale versus right at the get-go, they're going to be $22.94. So they might start at 20, I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but 20-something per hour if they don't have a CDL.
And I apologize, did you say you've already filled the 2 positions that you were looking?
Well, not formally, but we do have a couple of folks on Scrap that are working on their CDL. Actually, one working as an container specialist getting the CDL. but that could be a different scenario other than the apprentice. We're just still trying to iron out how to handle those folks that are currently employed with us and what do we wanna do. We wanna keep them for sure. Renee, anything else that you can think of?
No, thanks for elaborating on the workforce services partnership. They really helped us with this program, getting a lot of those outlines. We've been able to translate, some of the state requirements for that from our already in existence, training into ours. And, I think it's gonna prove a good relationship.
It's a great program.
Yeah.
Well done. All right, there's nothing else there. Just to touch on the striving for a culture of compassion, respect, and development. Firm believer that learning organizations are thriving organizations. So one of the big things, implemented years ago was using Strength Finder 2.0 and then leadership-based strength, as our baseline or foundation to build on people's talents and strengths, keep them engaged in the work. So there are newer positions in our organization or newer employees that have come on. So we had our first go-around with those folks, and Katarina was one, Shane and Jorge, and, sorry, did I miss anybody? Hannah? Thank you, there you are. So at any rate, that builds the foundation of teamwork and, developing communication as well. And then the recognition program that we have, and then just to note that we have, after my report, an invitation for you all to attend the Waste and Recycling Workers Day. We do that every year in June. June 17th is the particular day, but during that week, we usually go with the third Thursday of the month because that's our monthly recognition celebration day. And I know Renee talked about Matt's joke, so that lower right corner is right after he told the joke. And you can see there are some people that are laughing.
Is that part of the personality or the strength test?
Yeah. For Matt, yes, he goes around with his litmus test. So yeah, we do recognize our employees for outstanding efforts, and then, we have our Safety Hero Awards as well. And there were 3 awards so far this year: Tony Nagalas, Mike Edwards, and Trace Songbrook. No questions there, we'll keep rolling. Financial stewardship, this is a big one, and as Paul mentioned, there are gonna be some challenges coming up. But we already know that in 2022, and you may recall, when we looked at cash projections going forward, we thought we were pretty safe and conservative in saying we're gonna base our cash projections on 94% expenditures, because in the past, we expended 91, at the most 93. And so we went ahead with the 94% cash balances going forward. And just to note, in 2022, we expended 96% of our budget, so it's 2% over, which is almost $500,000. And as Paul mentioned, even though those books look pretty good, we know and we fully recognize staff, times have changed. We're experiencing higher costs than we ever have. I mean, truck purchases went up $100,000 in 1 year. 2 years. 2 years. Yeah, it felt like a year. Maybe because we didn't get any. Yeah, I don't know. But at any rate, we're working hard. I want you to know that. The staff is being very creative of how can we reduce costs. We're always looking at efficiencies. I want you to know it's not that, oh my goodness, all of a sudden we have to look at efficiencies. We're always looking at ways to cut costs, always be as cost effective with those public funds that we know we're responsible for. So I just have a couple of things up here to talk about. One of which I always want to highlight is that we use refurbished cans versus purchasing new cans at $70 per. Those refurbished cans are ones that might come back from somebody that moves, or maybe we transitioned a private HOA to a private hauler, so we would take those cans back, clean them up, and put them out there for refurbished use, and that includes like when there's a can that a resident needs for a second can, instead of charging them the full $70, they may rather pay that $45. So that's just an example. So we saved $35,000 already this year in the first quarter. And then the scrap scheduling tool on the website, as you may recall, expended about 24,000 of that $100,000 budget on scrap specifically. And so we're already seeing that, Sione time is not as much. So I think you got to go home early on Friday. Where are you, Sione? Quote unquote early, on time, really. So we're starting to see some cost savings with that, already, and that was the whole goal. So administratively, it's made life a lot easier. The staff out on the street delivering containers is breathing a little easier with that maximum of 60 a day. Even if we have, and just so you know, we have about 6 seasonal CDL drivers on that program right now, so we're still having to pull over full-time, but folks are breathing a little easier with that cap. I realize that residents are upset, and I totally understand. Just understand we're doing the best we can with what we have to work with. And then again, we as staff, I'm fielding calls and make sure that I let residents know that it is staffing related. One minute I tell them that with the old program, we had 20 to 22 CDL drivers, delivering 124 containers a day out there in the street. And that's what we would need, and to understand we have 6. So then they're like, oh, wow, okay, I get it. Some are more like that, others are still pushing back, and that's okay. I mean, we continue to educate as we go. GIS, Andre Perron has joined us, and he is phenomenal at routing. And so with the container delivery and drop-off, he's going in and he's trying to match as close as possible for pickup and delivery in neighborhoods. Because as you know, it's not consistently every, it's not always, oh, there's a container here, right next door there's going to be another. It could be a different day that other neighbor's going to get the container, but he tries to make sure that it's as efficient as possible. And we've seen some improvements already just from him being here, the miles traveled. We're going to try to pull out what is really his work and what's the fact that we're only delivering 60 containers versus 70 or 80 before. So we'll hopefully be able to come back with that information soon. We're looking at a residential reroute to balance workloads. In the future, there may be a need to shift, and Patrick Schaefer, I don't want anybody to panic or spread rumors, but there may be a need to shift some of Kern's neighborhoods to Thursdays, but we would let you know well in advance of that happening. But the reason being is that Mondays are really heavy with what's being collected. Not that there's more homes coming on, it's just that there's a lot of stuff that gets generated on certain days. So we want to try to even that out to make it a little more efficient. And then we're looking at restructuring the processes of the routes in Harriman to try to reduce the number of trips going from Harriman City to the processing center for recycling. That's 19 miles one way. So we want to try to make that really as efficient as possible. And then the other thing that we've noticed is that there is a difference in the type of truck that we have. The newer trucks with Labrie can actually pack on more recycling than the older trucks. And so we want to try to dedicate those newer ones to the recycling so that it's more efficient and we don't have the more trips going to that processing center. I hope that all makes sense. Okay. No questions? We'll just continue on. And risk management and loss prevention, and I again thank you so much for approving our safety and emergency preparedness coordinator. Shane Norris has been phenomenal, and I think he's doing very much today. Just counting your great work. He's been instrumental in coming in. He's our designated safety officer with the trust, and what that means, why that's important, is we get a little reduction in our premiums when we have a designated safety officer, and we're making sure that the safety committee is meeting. We've reinstated that, reviewing accidents, trying to get to the root cause so we can do loss prevention versus the, putting out fires, so to speak. So it's working well. As you can see down in the stats, 100% free of workers' comp claims, and I get nervous anytime, but I just want to make sure to point that out. That's phenomenal. And then 79% safe days through April, but with April being a 95%, safe day rating, so even with all that bad weather, our drivers were doing very well at, avoiding anything. And then 3 property claims that are less than 10K, those are usually settled for, even less than 10, that's reserved, if that makes sense. Health and safety programs enhanced again. Shane, David Icka, operations managers are doing very well, making sure that, policies, procedures are communicated to our front line. We do have a lot of new drivers, so, there's been a lot of training and intense, tailgate sessions, which are morning Mondays. There's tailgate, which basically means Shane gives an itinerary and an agenda and an item to go out for the supervisors and leads to meet with the group and say, this is the message of the day. And it always centers around safety and well-being.
Did you explain your highlights?
Hot loads, yeah. Please, don't put fireworks in your can, or, batteries with any kind of vinegar or anything like that. So, yeah, it's not uncommon, and again, in the industry, understanding how things work, there is, and I don't know if anybody in the audience would like to explain a hot load, but it is quite scary. Shane?
Absolutely, thank you, ma'am. So hot loads, essentially this time of year, with a lot of green waste that's going in there, charcoal, briquettes, anything that's flammable, it may appear like it's out, but once you throw it in your dumpster, you kind of forget about it. And then when we add it to the truck, and now we're going down the road, oxygen feeding the small embers and everything, it just picks up. So we just want to educate the drivers on early recognition of this. If you see anything through the hopper and the camera, the procedures that we expect from you. Once you realize you have that, a fire, they can't just get in there with an extinguisher and put it out safely. So we discuss, finding a safe place to pull over a parking lot, get away from brush, debris, other cars, anything that could cause. Call 911, dump the load, pull forward, and then get away from it. So fire. If it's a smaller load, we want to compact it, try to snuff the fire out, and then get it somewhere safe for the fire department to deal with it, and let them determine if we drop it or try to get it back. So it's just this time of year, and that's something I'll do seasonally, is try to do like in the winter time, as it's driving conditions, forcing training.
Unfortunately, we have had those
Yes, ma'am.
hot loads.
Really? Just curious, what kind of property claims do we see? What are those usually?
Unfortunately, there's times where a arm of the truck doesn't get tucked in close enough, and they'll hit a bumper of a car.
Yes.
That's an example. Anything small like a mailbox or fence post, we try to handle in-house and not file a claim, because that helps our premiums in the long run. So we do keep track of in-house costs that we prepare, and then anything we have to file a claim and pay a premium attached to that or a deductible. Yeah, does that help?
Yeah, so it's usually an arm snagging something, if that's what we're talking about generally.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Sometimes with a newer driver, there might be a situation, and we had one on scrap unfortunately, where they're not as familiar with the length of the truck, or even though there's some training, when they are so focused on what's ahead of them and don't see the car off to the side, they may clip it with the rear wheel.
Yeah.
And that did happen unfortunately, so there's situations like that. I feel blessed that we have not had significant injuries on either side. Third party, I think we had one last year with one of our drivers, but he's doing very well. It's where a truck ran a red light and, basically, what is that called? T-bone, thank you. And he's doing well. Thanks, Rex. Nothing else, we'll keep rolling. And the next one is one I know that you're gonna be very interested in as well, is the environmental stewardship. And we try to divert waste away from the landfill. This was a policy that was set many years ago, and we've kept that going. So there's 7,300 tons of waste diverted from the landfill, and that's 20% diversion, meaning that of the total amount of waste that we collect, 7,300 tons of that, which is 20%, was diverted. And so you can see that tonnages going down, that bullet points there with glass, and then just noting that for glass is the commodity that we collect that we do not pay anything to do from. so we say I have some cost savings there. Green waste, we pay about $17, $18 a ton, depending on which facility we go to, so there's almost 11,000 saved in doing that. And then I wanna make sure I'm clear, but we still pay to go pick it up, right? Green waste and glass collection, curbside are all subscription-based, so the goal is to make sure that we keep those fees in line and they pay for themselves. So looking at how do we increase clean recycling, this has been a big question that's come up at the board, and totally, wanted to say we agree, that's our goal too. We want to have residents educated on what should go in the can and what shouldn't. So recently, Sione and McKenna did an intense training, because I mentioned we have newer drivers. They may not know what to look for and understanding what's a contaminant and what's not. So there was a big training on that, and we've seen an increase of tagging cans, turning that can around and not picking it up and letting the resident know why we didn't take it up, and which is really good. And so we have what's called the 3 strikes rule. It's been in place for well, since I've been here for a decade or so. And what that means is that the can gets tagged for the first time. If there's a second time, then it's education, with McKenna reaching out to that resident. The best place is a person-to-person, in-person contact. If we can do that, we will. If they continue on and there's a third time of contamination, we're thinking that they're just not wanting to be compliant and using that can as a second garbage can, we will actually take it away, and remove their option to recycle. There have been cases in the past where a resident will call and want that can back, agree to do it right, and, for the most part, they do it right, which we appreciate. And then I know there's been a lot of talk about stickers, so let me get into that. We have an upcoming sticker campaign to increase the clean recycling out there. So the thought is we're gonna target the problem areas, and I know McKenna has talked about the audits out there on the street, looking at, where are the problem areas. So stickers can be expensive. I've asked to purchase like this size of a sticker versus a half sheet. And so, McKenna, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you want to talk a little bit about the project?
Yeah, so we decided to choose kind of 3 bigger areas within 3 municipalities. And we will be going through, we'll have 2 rounds of like 100 cans in each of those 3 areas, so 600 cans-ish total, where we'll put stickers on the cans, and then, first we'll route audit. So we'll audit the cans to see what they look like before we put the stickers on, and then put the stickers on, and then give it like a month or so to see what that does, and then audit all of them one more time to see how it changed, and if those stickers held down. So that's kind of
Yeah. Do you want to slow down the sticker itself?
Lovely stickers.
Yeah, so this is, and then when we reviewed this with our management team, it was brought up that we should put a QR code on there too, so that people could just access our website. And it's very important to have this bilingual. There are folks in our district that may not speak English, and we want to make sure we're addressing any of our residents that may be ESL. And then pictures always speak 1,000 words. I think pictures are international, and then we also added with the thought of what's not accepted. Because before it was just what's accepted, and I think you as the board asked to add the what's not accepted as well. So that's the campaign that we're gonna launch. The goal would be probably mid-month next month. We've got to order the stickers, now that we landed on one, unless you have any thoughts of changing what we've got there. That's what we would go with and start with ordering about 1,000. McKenna mentioned 600 homes, that we put this on, and
You haven't printed these yet.
no.
The only comment I would make is in relation to pizza boxes. Because here on the left, I'm putting myself in someone's, they see cardboard on the left there, you know, oh, this is just simply cardboard, but they don't realize that it's no food. And I'm just wondering if there's a way maybe we could just say no pizza boxes. I don't know. I think that's a big issue. A lot of people order pizza, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like that's always contaminated. Because almost always you're gonna have grease in the pizza box when you throw it away.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a tricky one.
I don't know.
I try to tell people to take off the bottom and throw the bottom in the garbage and the top in the recycle. The top
Yeah.
is clean. But then that's not gonna reach everyone.
Right.
You could maybe
Right.
just do a clever little arrow, red arrow, clean.
Clean or
Oh,
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could put clean cardboard.
Clean cardboard.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to do it.
Grease-free
Or
cardboard.
something like that, yeah.
Pepperoni-free.
No cheese.
No cheese. I mean, you could do something pretty funny and it would capture.
Yeah, play around with it. Thank you.
Yeah, clean cardboard, maybe.
Thank you for that idea.
Hey, Pam,
Yes, sir.
Pam, I got a question. On the left side, it says plastic tubs, but then on the right side, it says no plastic. That could probably be confusing to some people.
Okay. Good point. Garbage bag, okay. Thank you, Patrick.
I'm just saying, some people might kind of confuse that, so.
No plastic bags,
Yeah.
garbage bags.
Yeah.
Thin
Plastic bag.
plastic, yeah, remove that flash. Okay.
I mean, a picture's one thing, but people just see the word and go off the word, you know?
Yeah. Thank you very much. We will work with that. Thin plastic or something of that nature, garbage bag. Okay, thank you. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
To make sure I understand how this works, so this spot checking for contamination. So if they find some in a recycling can and we choose not to pick it up, but we leave something behind like this, oops, so the customer knows that their trash is, that the recycling is not getting picked up and why?
Yes.
That's made very clear. Because I saw something on Nextdoor, and it seemed like it was out of Cottonwood Heights. Have we done this in Cottonwood Heights recently?
Well, the tagging, if you want to scroll just to the next page so we can have the visual, so the tagging is actually happening in every area.
Everywhere.
Yeah, every
It
day.
just seemed like they hadn't been picked up and they were angry about it and they didn't know why and I didn't know what was going on, but I was curious. I just kind of wondered whether it was this and just wanting to understand, is it made clear to him that it's not going to get picked up and why? Okay.
Yeah, the tag does say the why, and then it also has contact information to call our office.
Okay.
See shredded paper down at the bottom, and that's the why. Even though it's bagged, it can't go. And even if it wasn't bagged, it's what's called a fine. And that doesn't mean we're gonna get fined, it means that it's gonna fall out of the machinery. And it's basically gonna be just trash. Yeah. So yes, the answer is that we do tag it so they know, and it is turned around so that, you know, if a driver comes along to help out or whatever, they know not to take it out. I might know that can, that was in Cottonwood Heights when I rode through there on Thursday and saw a bicycle in there. Pretty interesting, yeah. Yeah, oops.
So it's on them, the
It's metal.
expectation is the customer is going to move all or some of it into the trash. Yeah.
And then we'll come back the next week and pick it up if it's clean.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Tough love.
Yeah.
So, one more small comment. I love the red. I wonder if each of these should have a green box around them.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I love the blue. I love the blue, but maybe just a thin border that's green.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't take a pet food bag, how come?
Well, most of them are, yeah, they're multi, so they'll have a line with plastic, they're lined with plastic, you know, the outside might be paper, or the
So if
inside is
it's
paper.
if it's a pure plastic pet food bag that just has a perforated hole, that's probably okay, but not the paperized one. Yeah, Victor's does the full plastic.
The paper ones are usually lined, I feel like, with
Yeah,
plastic.
they're multi-layer, but I buy Victor's dog food and it's a pure plastic bag. They're not paper at all, they just have little perforated holes in it.
Yeah, I would say no, because it's been plastic, unfortunately.
I know some, my dog's food, you can send it back or take it to FedEx, and
That's pretty good.
they'll take it.
Good to know.
What about water softener plastic bag, like the pellets?
Yeah, that's the same thing my dog food bag is,
They're kind of thick plastic?
It's really thick, it's covered.
Any plastic you can crumple up.
Perfect.
Thank you, that was good, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we need to say that.
It does right there. Not on the other one though.
On the packaging one.
Interesting.
Yeah, so these are all hard plastics versus, pliable plastic.
I should bring in like a cutout of it.
I think that the struggle here is, I mean, listen to us. We're the board and the company, and we can't even figure out what can and can't go in this can. This is a real struggle, and I don't know. I think the sticker is a step to help people, but gosh, I don't know that we can solve this.
Time to start making Woof Word Live, like Saturday Night Live skit.
Aside from manufacturers deciding to produce their products in materials that are recyclable and that fit and accommodate the equipment that's used for recycling, I don't know how we, like, trusting a mass population to be able to deduce all of this information, I think is a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, and especially because there are advertising pieces from companies that are not accurate.
Oh, yeah.
They're saying it's recyclable.
Stick around.
They're virtue
Theory,
signaling,
yeah.
we are, we're environmentally responsible, but it's not. So,
Could we look at partnering? Because one of the biggest culprits, honestly, is grocery store bags.
yeah.
If we could partner with grocery stores and just have them put right on there for trash use only, not recyclable, right on their bag, and put a Wooford thing on it and partner with them on that, just to get information out, because then, I know, it took me a long time to realize I couldn't put those in the garbage can, I'm like, crap, I'm polluting it without, the garbage at the time, and so, I think that helps, and then also knowing that, if you're not gonna, if you're bagging your groceries for recyclable, get a paper bag. If you want your recyclables to be, it's just not something that people or understand. But if you could confront it at the grocery store, you could get a lot of information out. If we could partner with them on that, I know, we've spoken to Harmons before, and I know they started doing some stuff with our elementary schools and stuff like that, but gosh, I would think educating at the source is probably one of the best things we could do. Think about how many we could take down just from helping people understand at the grocery store.
And there are certain stores that don't even provide any plastic bags.
True.
And I think this kind of leads into, board member Markham's thought of having some sort of a visit about plastic bags, and what would the board's stance be?
Yeah, we've got it on the agenda for June
Yeah,
discussion.
he was gonna be absent this month, so I didn't wanna have it on, but I think this leads into exactly what he was asking about. And then I think it would be up to you as a board, because I know, board member, Vice Chair Barbieri mentioned that, what's our line, so to speak, where are we at? We can do things within our district, but what will we do otherwise? I don't wanna speak for.
It's true.
This sticker that we've been discussing, the one that's in two languages, this is simply for sort of this pilot test program. So maybe after we do that test program, we can see if there are more nuanced changes we want to make to the sticker, if we want to roll it out district-wide, so.
Can I say something too? I think too, we're not expecting perfection or 100%, that would be a nice goal, but incremental improvement. And so I always think of the saying, don't let perfection be the enemy of progress, and I think that's true here too, but it is very confusing. I mean, me personally, I used to get those clothing bags from the dry cleaners, and it had the recycle thing on them. And so I'm putting it in recycle, and then I start working here, and everyone's like, that plastic's like the devil. And then you go toward it, and you see that, so I think there is a lot of confusion, even with people wanting to do the right thing. But I think we can improve and get our rates even better, and so I think what we're trying to do here is good as far as just, can we make some incremental progress?
So I have a question too. You know, you see it, a lot of grocery stores, they've got these big cardboard 50-gallon drum type things where return your grocery bags here. So I've got to believe that to some degree those are recyclable in a certain environment with a certain process. So we can also partner with them, with different grocery stores that maybe don't have that type of a program, you know, with your branding and your logo, educating, you know, like, hey, yeah, we can't recycle them, but if you put them here, we can get them collected and get them somewhere that they can be recycled and or stop using them, you know, use paper instead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say what Greg just said. My understanding is that when you bring the plastic grocery bags back and put them in the recycling container, Smith's does a good job of trying to get people to do that, right? My understanding is those are recycled, but, so.
Hopefully.
And I think there is an understanding among some, you know, Smith's shoppers that bring them back, put them in there, when you walk in the door, they're gonna get recycled. So if Harmon's isn't doing that, maybe they could get them.
Yeah, I have noticed that, I know the Smiths, community, and then the Harmons did the same thing, they started to do recycling. I really wonder where those, when they empty those boxes, where does it really go?
I've always wondered if they emptied them because they're always full.
Yeah.
You know, they're always full.
But, you know, where does it go? I think, you know, I can almost imagine picking it up, take it to the back, and put it in the, put it in their garbage can. The garbage can, because, again, who recycles that type of plastic, and where does it go? And if you don't have, like, off the top of your head, oh, it goes here, that's where it gets recycled, I don't think it's getting recycled. I think that's a...
They're just they're keeping it out of the recycling by putting it in the trash for us, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, because again, that's a more of a specialized recycling.
It is.
It's not going to our major recyclers.
Yeah, yeah, and I know before it was such a big push, before China changed their rules, that the vendors would take the bags basically and bail them, and they basically told me they got $5 a ton, I think it was, at that time, 5 cents, I can't remember, I apologize. It was probably more like 5 cents a ton, but they were taking them, and they were shipping them. Where they went, nobody knows.
But the labor to assemble a ton of those bags.
Yeah. So, it is a tough one. I would love to have some sort of stewardship. I think it would just be a matter of what is in our purview and what direction you would want me to go. Right?
Well, that'll be a good discussion next month.
Okay. Thank you. I'll let Phil know it's on its way. Board member Markey. Yeah, thank you very much so we will make some changes to the sticker, and if you're good, we'll roll it out and test it on the 600 homes and see how we do. And then one of the things I want to know is, I want you to understand is that, we talk a lot about, and I'm going to call it clean recycling versus contamination. So we want to have clean recycling, and get rid of the garbage in the cans. And I think that for the first quarter of this year, we did see a little lower clean recycling rate, simply because it was wet. So I really think that the second quarter is gonna be different. I think it'll be improved. The recycling vendors are still going strong. They still want our stuff. And we've been working with them, and we have seen, in fact, this next one, thank you, Renee, for pulling this up. This shows what's in the recycling can. within our, district. So I mentioned that cardboard is the highest, percentage of the commodities that we collect. And then you can see how they all break down. We would love more aluminum, more metal, more tin, but, because it does get a little higher, fetches a higher dollar out there on the market. But you can see that bottom table, and you can see those positive, the green, pluses over to the right. That shows that the markets are improving. And this is what we thought would happen, coming into 2023, is that we saw the market pricing go down, which meant at the end of the year of 2022, we started paying a little higher. Coming into the first quarter of 2023, we knew that we would pay more, and we did. And you saw that with Paul's report. And so we now see those green pluses, and I'd love to see those. That means that we're going to pay less to have it processed. Yes, sir.
So you've got ton on some of these, and then you have pounds. On the pounds, is that 14 cents a pound for the plastic?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking that. Any other questions on commodities? Do you want to scroll down one more point? I want to make sure everyone knows that McKenna is out in the community. We are out there with a presence. She sends out the newsletters, and then also this particular picture is at the Mill Creek Earth Day event that she attended. And any of those events, we try to get, hopefully more than just McKenna there, like me, if I can make it, just to have a presence and help people to understand why we're doing what we're doing, and really pushing the recycling education for clean recycling. And then you can see the itinerary that's coming up. So we are involved in the community market.
Can I suggest one more? I know out in Kearns, they have their fire, water, and ice, which is over 5,000 or 6,000 people that go through that. It'd be an ideal place to educate people on what can be recycled.
Yeah, thank you.
And it's usually the first weekend of August, I think.
Okay, thank you. And then there are other events in Kearns as well, like with the night out against Hometown Day, excuse me. Yeah.
That's the night before.
Okay.
It's the same weekend.
Lots going on.
Yeah, so they actually do the hometown days, they do the parade, and the fire, water, and ice Saturday day.
Yeah, that's all done on August 5th and 6th of this year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
And there are more events than this usually, but I haven't heard from people yet, so you all know dates.
I was about to give you the one on the bottom, and then I saw it up there.
I know there's another big one in Taylorsville this year, that's the second annual for, the Aloha Samoa, Heritage Week, which is the week right before the 24th of July. So, and that's in Taylorsville, at their park, Southridge Park. I can get you that information if you want.
Thank you.
So for the event for immigration, the Firewise, McKenna, are you gonna be there, or?
Yeah.
So I'll join you the entire time.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being on that topic. Okay. All right, if there's nothing else, well, that's it for my report, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and McKenna, we have, in holiday, we have on the 26th of August, we have our Blue Moon Festival, which usually has a huge turnout.
Yeah.
And that's August 26th from 5 to 10 p.m. And it has artisan foods and children's tent and, food trucks and all that, so.
Cool. Last year we had one person, like, on the same day again, but we had one
You're
person.
gonna stop planning your party, you're taking away from our event.
Oh,
I believe Copperton does one on that same day as well, so
Yeah.
we'll divide and conquer.
yeah. Okay.
Not on a road trip.
Fire some temporary people need to go to it.
Right. Paul, you're up.
All right, anything else on your report now?
No, sir, that was it
Do
for me.
you want to jump right into the invite for the Workers' Day breakfast then?
You bet. So we do, we started having a food truck on site, when COVID hit. We wanted to be outdoors where it was safer. And it was such a nice thing and a big hit that we continued that on. So we will have a food truck here on site, and then we do an annual gift for board members and for the employees. And the employees generally pick that gift. Last year was a cooler. We mainly put our logo with the National Waste, actually we call it Garbage Person Day, because it's easier. That's the way it started out way back when. We just kind of kept that. So the date is, Thursday, June 15th at 7 a.m. and it's just right in the back of the parking lot. You'll see some cones out, people gathering. We'll do some awards as we normally do for our monthly recognitions, and people will eat and have a good time. As always, right?
Perfect. I'll be here.
Cool. And Katarina will forward you the invitation after this meeting. Want to make sure it got on your radar first, and then you knew what that is when you get an invitation.
Good, thank you. Any need for a closed session, item 4 on the agenda? All right, there being none, any other business or questions or info from the board members? Yes, Cindy.
I'm just curious, Pam, has there been any feedback on our fee increase? Have you guys heard anything, complaints, anything like, I'm just curious.
You know, it's because, it was very quiet for the first quarter because we bill in arrears.
Yeah.
So April, we started seeing a little more activity as calls came in, questions about the fees. There hasn't been a huge pushback. I will say that I've had some calls or emails about you raised my rates and still the container program. So that's where I follow up with one-to-one education of the why, and understanding that we prolonged the fee increase. And part of it was that program was changed, and so we did reduce costs. I'm very transparent about it, but that wasn't the goal. I mean, it was kind of the way events played out because of shortage of staffing. So there's been some, Renee, I don't know, and Renee's now over customer service, working with Yale and team. We did a little restructure internally, that way, but anything that you can think of right off the top of your head?
No, we've had inquiries, but the ladies up front have handled them well and explained, costs, naturally have gone up, and I haven't had any escalation, so I guess that's a good thing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Very interesting, thank you.
Mine have been a handful at the most.
Okay.
Any other items from the board? All right, next meeting,
Chair, I do have
I'm sorry, yes.
just an informational item, and then just to kind of get your input.
Oh, yes.
The flood
Sorry.
control. So, as you know, that there are many sandbags out there for flooding, and it's mainly on the east side of the valley. I got a call Friday afternoon from Cade McCure. He is the division director for flood control in Salt Lake County. He asked if we could and would provide central sites for sandbags to be dropped off. And I think we all understand the concerns about central sites. But I did ask Shane and David Ika to take a look at what could we do, and then try to give some ideas back to the county. If you are good with that, I mean, we usually try to help out our partners. I mean, this will be your municipality that can have an opportunity to have residents drop off sandbags. Immigration Canyon, and Brighton, Holiday, Mill Creek.
If I can share some thoughts from what we're doing. So the bags are either dirty or clean. If they've been touched by floodwaters, they're dirty, and they have to go to the dump. If they're clean, they can be reused. For example, we're gonna pull them on Thursday and take them to the Cottonwood Canyon areas. But it's important to understand that if they're contaminated, there is no further purpose for the sand. You could have E. coli, et cetera. And so what we're doing in our canyon is 3 collection sites, and then the county's gonna come and pick them up with a front-end loader and take them to the dump. So that's just an example of what we're planning to do with our sandbags.
I was just gonna go over that. There is a difference between what we can pick up specifically that could be reused versus what has to go to the dump. So
And the bags themselves only last a couple months, so it's not like you can
they
store them
can't
for next
keep
year.
them, yeah.
They deteriorate.
Yeah. And when I talked to Kate, he said that they don't want that sand in the and the streams and the rivers. They don't want people to dump those in there. So if we could partner with them and provide an avenue for residents to drop those sandbags off and haul them away. One of the things that he mentioned that I really asked him not to do is to say it's a spring cleanup. Because then we're gonna get all kinds of debris, and we would really run into issues of trying to manage it. I think with just having the central sites in general, and just specifically saying for sandbags only, we're still gonna get other things, but I think as long as we keep it published and, you know, make sure the word gets out, it's only for sandbags that may help, hopefully. And then, Mr. Chair, I want to point out that Patrick Craig, who's the Executive Director for the Solid Waste Management for the county, has got his hand up.
Yes, good.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I'm not sure who that was that last spoke regarding what their area is doing with sandbags. Can you provide that information?
That was Robert Pignon from Immigration Township.
Okay. Just FYI, the guidance that the county health department in conjunction with the state, unless something has been specifically contaminated, with chemicals, sewage, etc., the current guidance is saying that no, those are still good they don't need to go to the landfill. So I know that everybody's still working on some guidance, and I know that they've looking at Mayor Smolka, but unless something has been known specifically contaminated, that's one thing, and that would be required to go to any landfill, not necessarily a solid waste management facility, but just because it hit floodwaters does not mean that it needs to go to the landfill, according to the current guidance.
So just a clarification, the floodwaters I'm speaking to have tested positive for E. coli because of all the septic tanks that we have in the canyon. And so they are deemed contaminated for us in the canyon.
Okay. Clarification, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. All right, anything else on the flood piece and the sandbag piece?
No, so I was talking to our wonderful legal counsel before the meeting to say, you know, are there avenues that if we needed to move quickly, that administratively I could do that without a formal, you know, adoption of the board, like on an interlocal or something of that nature. So I don't know if you want to touch on like an MOU or.
Yeah, basically, I feel like it's a little unknown right now. And I'll work with Pam, and we're not even sure what the county is going to propose in terms of an agreement, so I think we'll wait and see what they propose. If it's the kind of thing that Pam can do on her own, we'll do that. If you feel like it's something that needs to come back, it'll just depend on timing. If it can wait till June, then we'll do that. But if we need to do like a quick meeting, get your guys' approval on something, we can do that.
Can I ask you a question on
Really
that?
not sure
If
yet.
we are in a state of emergency in Salt Lake County, which we are right now, does that apply the same way to you guys as it does, or, because I know it's declared, we can turn that administrative over, it doesn't have to go to the board, specifically during a state of emergency. I know you guys specifically don't have a state of emergency. I don't know if that affects you.
We don't have anything like that applies to us. And at most, if there's a sort of thing like where we need to have an emergency meeting, the typical emergency meeting will be fine. But no, we don't have anything specific.
And so one of the things that we'll look at as far as, you know, how do we get reimbursed, right? We're happy to help, but we need to make sure we can pay for it. So there is, as part of our emergency preparedness and our continued operations plan, we have what's called a toy book. And most organizations have this, and it basically outlines each piece of equipment that we have, the type, what it can do, and then we look at the FEMA rates. And they change generally annually. So we update that book with those rates, and so any kind of an agreement would be, okay, we're gonna give you this type of equipment with this type of labor, this is gonna be the cost. And then for the state of emergency, I believe if we have an agreement in place, then we would get reimbursed for that, service that we would provide.
I know we have funding set aside specifically for this, but.
Yeah, I think Mill Creek does as well.
Yeah, we've tried to put that in the budget.
And the MSD, I think, is helping with
Rachel a question. Is there anything in our structure and documents that would allow us to make an emergency declaration that would give Pam some interim authority to act? I mean, or is it advisable?
Just within your, there's nothing labeled emergency authority,
Okay.
but just within your inherent power, I mean, you
Yeah.
could make any sort of declaration you want, say, we're gonna give Pam authority. The only problem with this one in particular is we didn't have it on the agenda, it just
Yeah.
came up
Yeah.
last minute, so we don't have an agenda item for you to make that.
For sure. So probably the best thing would be, if something comes up, we could hold an emergency
If
online
necessary,
meeting.
yeah. There, you can have certain contracting authority
Yeah.
already, there's just certain types of contracts, typically with interlocals, we try to bring those to the board. So that's what I'm saying, like, I need to see like what the county's even proposing in terms of a contract, and I'll take a look at it, and if it feels like something that Pam can do on her own, then we'll have to kind of sign
Yeah.
it. If it feels like something we need to bring back to you, we'll bring it back to you.
And if there is an emergency meeting, we could
We can do that online,
do that online.
very quickly,
Okay.
one topic,
I think
get a vote.
I think that's the way to approach it.
Yeah, if it's necessary to get that before June. So basically, this is all just happening very quickly, and we'll play by ear, we'll take a look at, see what they're proposing, and we'll make an assessment if we need to come back to you guys.
Sure.
Or-
Because by June 22nd, which is our next meeting,
Yeah,
the
it's-
crisis will have passed
Yeah,
probably.
likely
So,
we'll need action before then.
yeah, okay. All right, so,
Because we did pass that didn't we pass the resolution that if there is an emergency and we are called upon, we're called upon, that it would serve this community, our community first, and then it would provide help? Perhaps we just need, maybe we just need to add a paragraph about a situation like this.
Yeah, it does, state in the policy, and I apologize, I'm thumbing through trying to remember.
Yeah, we just
Where
barely
it's at,
started looking.
but, it does, there is a clause in there that says that I have the authority to expend up to $500,000,
yeah.
which we would hope that it's not gonna be that way. But the thought is whatever we expend, we would be reimbursed through
Right.
county.
So that's what I'm saying,
and
Pam
city.
might already have the authority, I just kind
Yeah.
of looked at it closely enough, and depending on what we're asked to do, it could be this kind of thing that I could advise Pam, like, yeah, you already have the authority to just.
Yeah, and we could do an emergency meeting.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
worst case scenario, if I feel like she doesn't have the authority for some reason, we'll just come back.
In a few hours, we could get a quorum.
Yeah, not a big deal.
All right.
Somewhere in there, I'm just saying, we talked this morning, but I haven't had time to dig in and like pinpoint, yes, here's where it says you have the authority to do it, but.
And Lori will make sure we get reimbursed.
Yeah.
You got it.
Emergency response.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, we do
Got
have
it.
emergency response, right?
Okay.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right, so it sounds like we're in good shape on that,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, so we'll probably, yep, I didn't even remember that we had that, so, yeah, it'll probably be good for him to just.
And something future to know, I know that our emergency management team that we've pulled together and we're really working on building right now is looking at doing memorandum of understanding with all local entities that have anything right now. And that is in the works right now. We've been in the process of building that team up. We've seen the need for it over the last, couple of years. And, with the earthquake and everything, and it became very apparent during that time that there was a serious need to understand where resources are and how those were gonna be allocated, who's been hit, and how do we allocate it GIS-wise? How do we, verify what that is, and then, who is the proper one to manage it? I mean, if it's just a small area specific in a community and it's a city, does the county offer resources and help? The answer right now, according to the county right now, is yes, we do. Whatever we have available to help that city, we will make available to them, as long as we don't have needs to meet first, in other areas. So all of those things are things that we are working on putting together a master plan for the county itself, and then work with all the local cities and entities to go, how do we move from there? How do we identify all the resources, and then how do we mobilize those as needed? Because oftentimes when there is a massive emergency, we saw that with the wind. If you remember when we had the big wind, damage and stuff like that, we mobilized people pretty quickly. But the earthquake was the one that was the most telling, because sending people out from, our, Greater Salt Lake, Municipal Service District, we didn't know where they were. People were going different places, and there wasn't the plan that we had, you would wanna know exactly how to track them, where they are, how to find out what they're doing during that time, and if we've got resources in the best places. They were just going on calls, to see what we need to do to get things up and going, to make sure we can get businesses up and going, to make sure that they were cleared and they were okay, and how do we pull more people in, and so there was a lot of questions and concerns and resources that were expended in that, and when we realized that, we gotta have a better system and better plan in place. So that started some of this, and I know specifically that need to know where we have equipment that we can pull from during this. The one good thing is we now have more than 3 people trained to go out and assess these places. We have more like 25 now. So, it's been a good change, and that's just with the municipal services district. We'd like to get the same number of people trained in other cities as they meet those requirements. Because what we found in the earthquake, for those of you who don't know, is most of us who were going after FEMA during that time had to have somebody come in and give us an estimate of cost. Remember, that was in the middle of COVID. You couldn't get contractors to come in, you couldn't get that. So businesses were able to get that done. Almost none of the residential was able to get that done. So there were literally no residentials who were actually capable of filing for FEMA during that time, even though they had damage. And because there wasn't enough people that filed for FEMA during that time, we didn't qualify for FEMA for residential. And yet, me personally, I'm at $75,000 worth of damage in my house. I'm still trying to fix to this day. And it's still going up, right? Because I haven't finished it. We find more and more as time progresses. It's been really frustrating. So it's something that cities need to be aware of, that you have somebody on site who can help you, or somebody on contract in an emergency who can come in and assess damage and put out a cost, and know where to look. What are they looking for? Where are they looking? And how do they know? And so that's been a huge thing. And because we didn't have enough, because FEMA has a breaking point. If none people apply for that, it doesn't get funded. And even if it does get funded, it can take you forever to get that money back. And so there just needs to be some help with people understanding that that's the case. Very few people have earthquake damage protection on their home. Like $1,000 per year to add on top of it in my area. So most of us didn't have it, And then there's like a $20,000 to $25,000 deductible on top of that. So you still need help from somebody to fix your house, right? So that's what we're seeing right now, is a lot of people are having to go out for second and third mortgages just to fix their house from the earthquake. For those of us who, and then some people don't even know they have damage until 6 months to a year afterwards, when the pipe finally broke, that cracked all the way in it, or they don't know to look for that, So there's tricks to doing that, and I think that the more we educate people, the more that we're ready as entities to respond to that and know what to look for. That's huge. I mean, I'll tell you, one of the things that was frightening after the first part of the earthquake when we hit my house is to go outside and say, do I have a gas leak, right? And to look where my gas line is and see a gap in the dirt from my house an inch all the way down. And it moves the dirt an inch. So are my pipes still connected? Am I still attached? You just don't know. And so that was how you made that call as a homeowner. There's just not training on that.
No.
Those are some things just to be aware, and have somebody be able to come out quickly and say, all right, in Kearns, we have 5 people who are trained, we're gonna get them out to these areas in wherever, you know what I mean, in each of your cities, to understand what that takes to be able to go out and assess and help them get an assessment on their homes. And sometimes it's just a construction, if you have a team of construction people that work regularly in your cities, have an agreement with them where on that day, if there's an emergency, they're off their jobs and they're out helping you assess. That's something we haven't done in the past, and something we really need to look at in the future, because that'll be the key to getting people and help them through the process of applying for FEMA when there is damage, to know where to look for the damage, because not all of them are trained to look for that, to put those people who have agreements with you through those trainings so they know what they're looking for at the same time. So just so you're all aware.
Thank you, Lori. That's actually great counsel and fodder for our future planning, so that's great. Okay, our next meeting is June 26th. We'll cover annual fraud assessment, general manager's report, and then continue our discussion on the plastic bags. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.